Welcome to the Voice Operator Panel tutorial and training demonstration. Voice Operator Panel is a professional soft phone and attendant console for operators and receptionists. Let's begin by taking a look at the panel overview. As you can see, Voice Operator Panel is one screen, which includes an incoming call box, an outgoing call box, a global and local address search bar, as well as a place to create address books, view call logs, settings, and more. As we go through this tutorial, I'll talk about each of these features and how you can use them and manage them. First, let's look at settings. In the top right of your panel, you'll see a Settings tab. Once you click there, you'll see a whole list to choose from. Most of these settings will only be used by your IT department to help manage your voice operator panel. However, there are a couple of tabs that I'll point out to you as the user that might be helpful. First is the Shortcuts tab. If you click on the Shortcuts tab, you'll be able to see a list that looks like this, where you can customize your shortcut keys to your preferences. You'll also see some that have already been created for you. For example, the Delete key on your keyboard within the panel means hang up. So after you're done with a call, simply hit the Delete key for an easy hang-up process. Another tab that might be useful to you is the Appearance tab. From here, you can customize the appearance of your panel. You can change the logo, the theme, your font, and even font size. Now let's look at incoming calls. Incoming calls will appear in the incoming call box. They will display as pink or red until you answer them, at which time they'll turn green. There are two ways to answer a call in VoP. One is to right-click with your mouse on the caller, and a menu will pop up where you can hover over and select Answer. A quicker way to answer a call is to left double-click right on the line, and that will answer the call. If you'd like to put an active caller on hold, you can right-click on your mouse, and when the menu pops up, select On Hold. Or, for simplicity, you can left-click on the green line and that will put the caller on hold for you. When you're ready to resume a call, you can follow those same steps. Either right-click on the yellow line and select Pick Up, or double left-click on the yellow line. At the bottom left of your screen, you'll see an Input button. From this button, you can pull up a box that looks like this. Once you're there, you can adjust the volume settings for your panel, but an important feature of this button would be the mute selection at the bottom left corner. If you're in a call and you need to mute yourself for any reason, you can select this box and your line will be muted. When you're ready to come back, you can uncheck the box. Now let's talk about transferring calls. There are two ways to transfer a call. If you have an active caller, or a caller that's on hold, you can right-click on your mouse and from the menu, hover over Transfer. When you do this, a box will appear to the right for you to enter the 10 or 11-digit phone number or the person's extension. Hit Enter on your keyboard and that person will be transferred. Another way to transfer a call is to drag and drop the line onto a contact that's already in your contact address book. For this, you'll left-click with your mouse on the caller, hold the mouse down while dragging that caller to one of your contacts. Once you have it over the contact, release your mouse button and the caller will be transferred. Now let's talk about conference calling. Conference calling is also known as three-way calling, so please note that this method will keep the lines separate on your console, but you will need to stay active on the line for the duration of the call. The steps for conference calling are as follows. You'll need to begin with two active callers, one that's on hold and one that's not on hold. Once you have the two callers in place, right-click on your mouse so the menu appears and select Conference. Once you select Conference, both callers will turn green and have a conference indication on their line. You will also be on this call with these two callers. The panel also has the ability to show your call history. To view your call history, go to the upper right section and click on the Log tab. From there, you'll see your call history from the day. Your call log will also be color-coded, as you can see here, according to whether the calls were missed, answered, transferred, and so forth. There are also icons to the left indicating these actions. For instance, this icon means it was an outbound call, while this one means an inbound call. This icon means transfer, and this icon means conference. Now let's take a look at the actual voice operator panel and demonstrate some of the things we just learned. We'll start with the incoming call box. When an incoming call is placed, you'll see it appear in the incoming call box as pink. Once you answer it, the caller will turn green and an on hold caller will be yellow. To answer this call, you have two options. You can either right-click on the caller and choose Answer, or more simply, you can double-click the caller and that will answer it for you. Once the caller is picked up, if you'd like to put that caller on hold, you can right-click and choose On Hold, or you can simply double-click again and that will place the caller on hold as well. From here, if you'd like to transfer the caller, again, you can right-click and choose Transfer. A box will pop up for you to enter the full 10 or 11-digit phone number or the company extension, and then hit Enter on your keypad to initiate the transfer. Another simple way to transfer a caller is to drag and drop that caller into an already established contact that you have in your address book, like this. I'll left-click on the caller. While I'm holding down that mouse button, I'll drag the caller over to a contact in the address book, and once I get there, I will release the mouse button and drop it there. When you see a transfer message in the box, you know that you have successfully transferred the call. Once that caller answers, the call will be removed from your call box. Please note also that if this caller that you're transferring to has a voicemail set up, the system recognizes that as an answered call and the caller will disappear from your box. Now let's move to the outgoing call box. To make an outbound call, you have two options. You can either use the bar indicated here by clicking on it and entering the telephone number or extension and hitting Enter on your keypad. You can also pull up a keypad at the bottom of your screen that's movable, so if you'd like to keep that in your outbound call box, you can. So if I click here and I dial an extension and then hit Enter, it will dial that caller for me. Another way to make a call is to use that drag and drop feature that we just looked at in the incoming call demonstration. So if I like to call someone from an already established contact, I would left click, drag that caller into the outgoing box and release, and that will call the person. Once they answer, you can double click to place them on hold, and then you can transfer them to somewhere else, or you have the option to call another caller and conference with both callers. You can transfer them from here or hang up. I'm going to go ahead and place an incoming call so we can demonstrate a couple of those items. Okay, so we have an incoming caller. I'm going to pick up that call and place that caller on hold. So in a scenario where these two callers would like to speak to one another, you can actually connect them by dragging and dropping one caller onto the other and releasing. Now these callers have been connected and they'll disappear from your box. Now let's look at another scenario where you'd like to create a conference call. I'm going to drag and drop a caller from my address book into the outgoing call field. I'll place this caller on hold. And now we have a second caller. This caller will need to remain active while you complete the process. So what you'll need to do is come to the caller that is on hold, right-click on your mouse, and select Conference. Now both callers are in conference mode, and please note that you are also included in this call as it's a three-way call, so if you hang up, the whole call will be disconnected. Now let's go down to the global and local search bars. Here you'll see a global search bar. This bar will search all contacts from all of your directories that you've created up here at the top of your panel. So as a side note, you can have as many directories as you'd like, and sometimes that's helpful when you have a large directory such as this one, but you'd also like to have a smaller directory for maybe your most frequently called numbers, or maybe you'd even like to make directories for each department within your company. So let's show an example of that. If I type in a coworker's name into the global search bar, it's going to show me where that coworker is in all directories. So you'll notice that this coworker is in my test directory that I have pulled up now, but he is also in my Candy corporate directory. So you can pull them into your outgoing call box or transfer a caller to them. The local search bar at the bottom right will also search for a contact, but it will only search within the directory that you have pulled up at the time. Let's show an example of this. I'll type in that same coworker's name, and you'll notice that in my directory, all other contacts have disappeared and it's isolated just this contact. So from there, I can drag and drop this contact into my outgoing box or transfer other callers to him as needed. Let's look at what it does in the larger directory. So I'll go to this Candy corporate directory, which is my whole company-wide directory. If I type in that contact's name, notice that everything else disappears and that contact is isolated for you. Now let's look at some of the other tabs at the top right of your panel. We'll start with your call logs. So you'll notice here that when you click on the log tab, it'll pull up your whole call log for that day. It color codes them according to whether they were placed on hold, transferred, answered, and so forth. There are also icons to indicate these actions. If you're unsure of what the icons mean, if you come down to the bottom of your screen and click on this question mark, a key will pop up for your convenience. If you need to see a call log from a previous day, you can toggle over by using the arrows at the top and to the left of the address bar. So there's a call log from yesterday, and you can move through your call logs as needed. To go back to the current day, come over to the arrow on the right and go back to your current day. The next tab over is a statistics tab. Again, you can toggle through dates to the left and right of the date bar at the top. And your statistics tab gives you some information that might be useful to you or to your company. It tells you the percentage of the calls that were placed that day as incoming or outgoing, transferred, missed, etc. It also gives you your average answer time, hold time, and so forth. The next tab over is the Settings tab. As I mentioned in the tutorial, most of the things in the Settings tab will be used by your IT department to properly manage your voice operator panel. However, there are a couple of things that are useful to you as the user. First is the Shortcuts tab. When you open this, you'll see boxes that look like this. These boxes allow you to customize your shortcut keys to your preferences. Some shortcut keys have already been made for you. For example, here's the delete key or hang up key that we mentioned in the tutorial. So when I'm in an active call, rather than right-clicking and going all the way down to hang up the caller, I can simply hit the delete key on my keyboard and that will disconnect the call. Another helpful tab under Settings is the Appearance tab. From here, you can customize your logo, your theme, your font, and even your font size. So if your contacts are showing a font that is too large or too small for you, you can adjust that here. Now let's talk about creating address books. So as we saw in the example, You can have address books that are large, company-wide address books, or you can have smaller ones for your most frequently called numbers or smaller departments within your company. Let's look at the ways to create the address books, and then we'll talk about how to put contacts within them. First, if you go over to the far right, you'll see a small down arrow. If you click on that, you'll see something that says Add. If you hover over Add, Directory will pop up. When you hover over Directory, a menu pulls up that says Local and External. You'll want to choose Local. Once you hover over Local, a box will pop up for you to name your directory. Once you name it and hit Enter, it will pop up in the Tabs section at the top. Another way to create a directory is to right-click anywhere in the empty space on your screen, go to Directory, and at the bottom, hover over Add, go to Local, and there's a box to type in the name for your directory. So today, I'm just going to type in Directory for our training purposes and hit Enter on my keyboard. You'll see that that directory was created at the top of my screen. Now, the directory will be empty at first, but I'm going to show you two ways to enter contacts. First, if there are a large number of contacts to put in the directory, you can import a file with all that information already on it. You'll need to get a CSV file from your IT department to use this method. Once you have your directory created, right-click, hover over Directory, and go down to Import. You'll want to choose File. Once you click on File, an Explorer box will pop up for you to choose the file with all of your contacts in it. Once you select that file, click Open at the bottom, and those contacts will begin to populate within your directory. If you have a smaller number of contacts that you'd like to input, you can enter them individually like this. Right-click anywhere in the screen, and instead of going to Directory this time, we're going to go to User. Once you hover over User, you'll want to choose Add. Once you select Add, a box like this will pop up for you to enter your contact's information manually. So you can enter the first and last name of your contact, or you can just put the name of a department, such as Sales Department. From there, you have the option to enter more information. So here are your options, but I just want to point out that this icon is going to be your default phone number or extension that the system uses when you're transferring a caller to this contact or when you're placing an outbound call to this contact. So I'll just put an extension there and hit Add at the bottom to place them in the address book. Now this contact has been placed in the address book, but I can go back into that contact anytime to update information by right-clicking on the contact, going down to User, and then choosing Edit. The same box will pop back up, so if you ever want to come back and add, say, an email or another phone number, or you'd like to add a picture of the person or an icon representing this department, you have that option. Now let's talk about a couple of things you can do with your contacts once you have your directories created. Once you have your directory created, you can edit these contacts as I just showed you. You can also add new contacts after the directory has been created. You can also delete a contact if you need to by right-clicking, going to User, and hitting Remove. A message will pop up that asks you if you really want to do this, just in case you did it by mistake. So I'm going to hit Cancel. You can also delete whole address books in that same way. So here's a test address book that I did in another training. I can right-click, go to Directory, and hit Remove. And it says, do you really want to remove it? And if I hit OK, it will completely remove that directory from my list. If you have imported contacts from a file, That doesn't mean that you still can't go back in and add more contacts to that same address book or update them as needed. There's also some quick editing tools when you right-click. For instance, if you go to User, you can edit their picture or add a picture, and you can rename it as needed without having to go into the Edit tool. Another feature I'd like to show you about address books is here at the bottom in this little window pane icon. If you'd like to change the view of your address book, click on there and you have 3 options. You can view your address book in tree mode, which looks like this, so it's just names. If you'd like to view it in that mode but add phone numbers, you can choose List. And then if you ever want to go back to the view that has the tiles, you'll choose Table. If you do choose one of these other views, and probably for a larger address book, this is more convenient than the tiles, you still can drag and drop those callers into the outgoing box or transfer callers to them from this view. That concludes our voice operator panel demonstration. If you'd like more information or have further questions, you can visit the VOP website at voiceoperatorpanel.com. Here you can see an overview of the program, features, and if you click on Media, you can choose videos for more training or to answer any questions that you have. Before we conclude the tutorial, let's go over some frequently asked questions. What type of headset should I use? To use Voice Operator Panel, you will need a headset. We recommend the following. However, other types may work. These are just the ones that we have tried and had success with. The next question is, does the panel allow me to answer and/or call multiple contacts? The answer is yes. You can answer and maintain multiple callers in the incoming and outgoing call fields in the panel by placing them on hold and moving to the next caller. This question is usually asked by people who have a high call volume, and so by placing callers on hold, you can have multiple callers waiting in the queue until you get back to them. Lastly, can I use my SIP hard phone and voice operator panel for the same call? No. If you are also using a SIP hard telephone and VOP with the same telephone number and user, you are essentially using the same user on 2 devices. So each one will ring, but you must choose which one you'd like to answer on and continue that call on the same device. You can't answer the call on one device and then switch to handling that same call on the second device. That concludes our voice operator panel tutorial and training demonstrations. If you have further questions, please don't hesitate to contact us at candytraining@candy.io.